Hi everybody, Jillian here for Illustrated Faith, and I have a new process video using the new Mixtape devotional kit from Illustrated Faith. Before I get started on my process in my Bible though, I wanted to play around with the stencil a little bit and give you guys a few ideas about how to use it, in case you're new to stencils and you're like, what do I do with this? So this is the stencil that came in the kit. The devotional kit is sold out, but the a la carte elements have been uploaded to the shop, so those are available at illustratedfaith.com/shop. And so in this kit we have a stencil with Philippians 4, 6, and 7 with the text here, and it's so fun. This is going to be so great as a layering piece. If you're new to stencils, there's way more ways to use this than I'll share, so be sure to check the comments in the field below the video, because I know that some of our friends down there are going to comment with some really great ways to use these stencils. So the first way is using some ink and a dauber, or in this case I'm going to use an ink blending tool, and just putting the ink through the stencil. So I have a scrap piece of cardstock here that I'll go ahead and zoom in on so you can see it a little better. And I took pieces from the kit, the die cut pieces, and I color matched them to what I had in my stash. I don't have many distress inks, so these aren't going to be exact matches, but for the purpose of showing you how this technique works, I think it'll be okay. I also pulled some acrylic paints that I'll share in a moment. Those are a little bit closer. So let's actually kind of blend this one. So I have the Peacock Feathers and Mermaid Lagoon Distress inks here. These aren't the oxides, these are like the original ones. And so I just loaded up my blending tool with a little bit of ink, and I'm just gonna, in a circular motion, put it through the stencil. So one thing that I like about this stencil is how durable it is. Actually, when I pulled it out of the package, I thought maybe there were two in here because it was so thick, and that's really nice for blending because I don't have to worry about breaking it or anything like that. And then you can change, you know, how dark the impression is underneath the stencil by the amount of pressure that you're applying. So you could do it super light, like I'll do it lightly in this corner. And then you can press down and do it really dark, like right here. Sometimes I like to washi tape the corners down so I don't have to hold it and so it doesn't shift, but like I mentioned, this one's pretty durable, so it's not going to go anywhere easily. And then another thing I really like about it is that all the interior parts of the letters are not there, so I think that contributes to its durability too. So as you can see, like there's not the center of the O in there or the center of the A, and I really like that. So my blending tool or whatever you're using, your dauber, isn't going to get caught on that and snag it and tear it. And so this is what it looks like. So this will be a nice layer. You could even use just parts of the stencil to get kind of like an abstract text look behind whatever project you're working on. So here it is, really light. I used a very light hand to blend the ink in there, and then I applied more pressure here so it's a little more saturated. So this is a really fun way to use it. And then to clean stencils, I keep a rag nearby, and I'll just put my rag down, grab a baby wipe, and then just rub it off like that. Alright, and then it's nice and clean. So I'll let that dry and then grab the items that I want to use for the second technique. Alright, so for the second technique, I'm going to try using some sprays through the stencil. I did this in my process video a couple weeks ago and it was a little messy. My friend Jessica gave me a tip though, so we'll try that and maybe that'll help. I'm going to use a Distress Oxide spray in Abandoned Coral. And there you go. You can still read the text, which is nice. It's a little more messy, and then you have, of course, the overspray on the edges. If you didn't want to have that overspray, you could grab another piece of scrap paper or a Bible mat or something. I've been seeing comments like those are hard to come by now. So if you find that that's the case for you, check out the dollar store and see about grabbing a couple of their like cutting mats, their plastic cutting mats, and maybe you can trim those down to size and place them under your projects to kind of keep them safe. So as you can see, that was super messy, but I used the oxide spray, which should come up much easier than, let's say, a gloss spray. So stand by. Okay, so now that that's relatively cleaned off, we'll go ahead and move on to the last technique I want to share with you, which I will go ahead and do as the foundation for my Bible journaling page. So I am in John 16. That's not one of the prompts that Jill uses in the Mixtape devotional, and that's totally okay. I'm in the first session here. God says, I am loved. And so if I go to the journaling prompts here, she gives us homework, some songs to listen to. She created a playlist also if we want to listen to that. And then she gives us several scriptures to look up. So I listened to the song Look Up Child, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in my journaling. But just kind of that process listening to that landed me in John 16:33. That's where I wanted to journal today, which is over here. So let me get situated. Definitely going to use a mat for this one. So for this page, I wanted to use some tone-on-tone contrast, and I pulled out different acrylic paints. These are all Target brand that were as close to the kit colors as I could get. So again, I took those die cut pieces, went over to my paint shelf, and selected these: Robin's Egg, Oxford Blue, Deep Sea, Coral, and Sherbet. And so what I want to do is put some darker paint down on the background, and then mix some of that same color paint with some white texture paste here, and then run that with a palette knife through the stencil over the acrylic base that I have here. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and speed up my process and get started with my Bible journaling page. I'm going to start with the Deep Sea and Oxford Blue paint colors. I really like the look of dry brush painting, so I'm going to take a dry paintbrush, put it directly into the paint, and put that on my page. So I won't dip it in water first, and you get these really fun, pretty, bristly strokes on your page. For the Oxford Blue, which is really dried out, I will add some water to that before I apply it to the page, but not too much. So I'm putting this in 3 places, and then when I went to hit that with my heat tool, I used my finger to sop up some of the excess paint, and I really like how that looked when I removed a bit of it with my finger. So I did that as I was drying it, and then I like that because you kind of pick up the blue and you can see the teal underneath. And then I went rooting in my trash can and found this plastic packaging. So I'm going to add some of the coral paint with this white texture paste and mix that up with my palette knife. You can see it's pretty stiff here. So I'm going to go ahead and run that through my stencil. Sorry about the lighting here. Run that through my stencil, not all the way top to bottom, just here and there. And as you can see, some of the paint seeped underneath the stencil. I think that has to do with how humid it is in my room. At the time of making this, it was pouring outside, and I just live in a humid area in general. I cannot make sugar cookies at home in my house because it's so humid. So I added more texture paste to kind of stiffen that up a little bit and ran it through the stencil one more time, and you can see down here at the bottom that I got a much better impression. I am going to layer things on top of here, so I'm not so worried about this, but here's a really great impression, Christ Jesus, on the bottom. And I love how that coral color pops off of the darker ones. You may have noticed I didn't end up doing tone on tone. Then I'm going to take this white gloss spray from Dina Wakley and just taking the nozzle out of the bottle, tap some of the white paint onto my background for an extra layer. And then I really wanted to use this gold color shine from Heidi Swapp, which is super old, but my bottle has been like fused shut. So instead, I'm going to go ahead and look through the ephemera pieces that came with the kit and pull out the ones that I want to use, including this really fun tape up at the top of my page here and a couple of labels. I also grabbed Jill's Mixtape Wordfetti from the Print and Pray shop. I thought that would be a great addition. And then I had this piece of vellum, which is super old, from Studio Calico laying around, and thought that would be pretty layered underneath this mixtape or cassette tape that's going to hold my journaling. So I really like it. It kind of tones down the background a little bit, so I layered up 2 pieces. Since I'm using a dark alphabet, I wanted to have the vellum to kind of separate the background from the darker like alpha stickers that I'll end up using. Then I put a label down at the bottom that'll hold my date, and put all of that together with my tiny attacher and then glued it onto the page. So I'm going to use the title Look Up since I was inspired by that Lauren Daigle song Look Up. I'm going to add one more label here just kind of as a resting place for my alpha stickers. It was looking odd to me otherwise. And then I'm going to start stamping. So in that label, I want to stamp the word truth. It's kind of going to kickstart my journaling up here. And then use my StazOn Jet Black ink to stamp some stars around the page. I'm going to use this Kelly Perky dye ink in like a tealish color to get my date stamp in the label. And then I'm going to use this really fun washi tape that Vanessa designed with Shauna Klingerman's art. It's a really fun touch. And then I thought it would be cool to try my Signo Uniball white gel pen on this cassette tape journaling card, and I'm pleased with how well it came out. I've learned that when using this pen I have to write super slow, but otherwise, no problems there. I topped the page off with a bow from my friend Christine, and then finally got this gold color shine bottle open. So as a finishing touch, I'll go ahead and spray this gold color shine all over the place. And that's it. Jill writes in her devotional, when your thoughts turn to anxiety, worry, or sadness, sing until your thoughts turn to hope, surrender, and trust. And so when I sing this word, look up, I'm reminded of the one who has already overcome the world. And that's so comforting to me and what I wanted to journal here in John 16:33. So that's going to do it for me. While the kit may be sold out, like I mentioned before, the individual kit elements are now listed in the Illustrated Faith shop. I'll have those linked down in the video description for you if you want to check them out. We'd love to have you join us for Mixtape. It's going to be great. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you soon.